on a Sunday morning. This is the one y'all was waiting for. I'm not waiting, I'm just making more. Plot it out, took the time, executed the design, a finish line. Type of work, it's not done, just out of time. I'm feeling fine. Long road, strong no, this a grind. This a climb for some of us. In and out, double dutch, unpacking what they done to us. Technology numbing us. Think about it, seen it coming up. Records broken, numbers running up. Competition having fun or what? 30 years coming up, haven't done enough. Prize dangling right in front of us. Better lies right up under us. How they rush the capital and run them up. Yeah, trying to raise capital for the month.
Chill. You know what it is. No Ordinary Podcast. Songs on a Sunday morning. What's Popular edition. You know the vibes. We chilling. I got my boy J.O. in the building. Gonna bring him up in a second. Alright. That's him on the intro track, of course. You know the vibes, USSR. Go ahead, check out that album if you haven't. Songs on a Sunday. You know the vibes. But yeah, we here. We're gonna get into our first recurring guest. First time we've had a guest recurring on the show, so like I said, he'll be back in and out. And yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and bring him up to the stage. J.O. Dandada, what's good, brother?
Peace.
You know the vibes. Songs on a Sunday morning. We here. What's popular? What you got going on, fam?
Same shit, different day, you know, trying to stay out the way.
Yeah. I dig it. All right, so, I mean, really, you know, what's popular? We're just going to talk about what's kind of popping right now. Oof.
Where to start?
Well, I mean, I don't even want to start where you know, where most people think, you know, we want to start. But maybe we'll get into that at some point. Okay, obviously, there's the blaring headline. But let's start with I know it's something that I don't know if you're on, but I'm on real heavy right now, and I've been kind of sitting back and watching a little bit, and I guess it kind of gets into that too, because it's kind of the first person that told us about it came off this platform. But let's talk about Shannon Sharpe, man. What's he's got going on, man? I mean, obviously the big headline this week was the mishap on IG, but overall, Club Shay, Ocho, they got the late night talk with Ocho. Shannon Sharpe got a lot going on right now. He's become really the prominent face in a lot of black entertainment right now. What's your opinions on Shannon Sharpe right now?
The mishap on IG. That's you talking about, like the sex scandal? Is that what it is? Is that the mishap
I guess
on
that's
IG?
what it is. Yeah.
Did you hear the actual audio?
Nah, I didn't hear the audio.
You kind of, all right, for us to have like a real conversation, you kind of have to hear it. I heard a little bit of it. I haven't heard the whole thing. But I mean, if you hear it, like I'm sure you'll hear it at some point, now that I'm talking about it. I mean, you know, honestly, it kind of sounded like real, like, what do you call it, scripted. It didn't sound like a mistake. It sounded like it was meant to sound like that. It sounded and meant to be put out there like that, you know? Like,
I mean, of course. I feel like that's why I don't need to go listen to it, because I feel like I'm sure it was. It's so I don't know if you picked up the next night though. The next night they had the live stream. It's like a 3-4 hour live stream, and they had all the different celebrities coming on. Did you see that?
Okay. No.
So that was the next night. So I did catch that, and I watched a good bit of that, and that was, I mean, they had some pretty heavy hitters coming on. Kai Cenat tuned in at some point. Uh, Crawford, the Lavelle Crawford, the comedian, was on at some point, which it was
Yeah.
hilarious. But they had a couple of other big names too that just hopped on real quick. I think Cam Newton got on for a second, and people were just hopping in and out of the stream, just basically reacting to what happened. But I mean, overall, the stream was hilarious just because the whole time they joking on and they getting on them. But I mean, just it was just another one of those like cultural moments, kind of like that I said with the beginning. If you get into the Diddy stuff, the first person that kind of said something was Cat Williams on Club Shay Shay. Like all this stuff's about to start coming out, and
Right.
then that's when it kind of popped off. So Unk right now has an interesting spot. I feel like in the community, he has the attention and the ear of the largest group of us at one point. I think that maybe ever at this point. I mean, he's almost at Joe Rogan status level as far as his podcast. I don't want to speak just like outside of that, but um, within the podcast realm, his influence is that large right now, and I think that's very interesting.
But what were the people saying on this live stream? Like what were they? What was their take on the whole situation
I mean, it
in
was just
general?
jokes. It was jokes. It was all jokes. I mean, everybody was just shooting jokes. Now, I thought it was one thing that I did pick up on, and just obviously an overwhelming thing right now. If you talk kind of about P Diddy and all of the stuff that's going on, an overwhelming thing that I kind of thought was there was a weird like mix of religion in it that they kind of had. Everybody was kind of like just making it was weirdly religious somehow, Bible verses and preaching, and it was kind of some weird thing going on there. But overall, there was just kind of jokes, just jokes on what happened. Everybody talking about the girl's name. I can't even remember the name he said or whatever, but it was just jokes. Everybody was clowning on it. It was funny. It was comedy, And at times he would take it, and then at times he would deny it, and then at times he would play into it. So they obviously knew what they were doing, but I mean it was overall entertainment value was 10, 10 out of 10. So I mean that's the only lens I can really look
But
at it through.
do you think it was do you think it was for like I honestly I hadn't heard about. I mean, Shannon Sharpe's been doing his numbers, but nothing like the Cat, and then I can't remember who was after Cat, but earlier in the year he was doing larger numbers than like the past whatever
He had
weeks, right?
he had
Do you think
Cat
he
and he
felt like he
had
needed?
yeah, maybe, but he had Marlon Wayans recently, and they did crazy numbers,
Marlon
which
Wayans?
was
I haven't seen that one.
yeah, and it was kind of intertied. Did you hear about the Vlad TV? It was intertwined with the Vlad TV issue where Marlon wanted to get paid a certain amount of money to go on Vlad. Then Vlad kind of
Oh yeah,
dissed
yeah,
him,
yeah,
and then Tony
yeah,
Yayo
yeah.
kind of was like, "Yo, like they're kind of up there in the industry," and then Tony Yayo pulled back from Vlad. So like obviously that had another narrative around it to kind of drive and propel that Club Shay Shay interview with him. But at the same time, that one apparently did some pretty big numbers. But
But the Vlad thing's like a whole separate thing because that's always been, or not always, but like for a lot of years, people have been calling Vlad like the vulture, right? Like for a lot of years, like that's
yeah,
just
yeah, and I mean I
he.
think that's you could say the same for Vlad at this point. Whenever he needs a little boost, he does something like this so he can get a little.
But his stuff is all in the vault. He can go in the vault and get a Tupac interview or so, like so to speak, and like he's ready to get a pop. Where this is like, like Vlad has a vault of
Yeah, yeah.
just
I mean
he's.
I think
I'm
I
sure he
think
has
that
something like with Diddy in it. Like he has all sorts of stuff, right?
yeah, yeah, he could. I guess that could. Yeah, I mean, it's always something that he could pull. I'm sure. You know what I mean. But at this point,
The Shay Shay thing is manufactured for this purpose.
mhm,
Like Shay Shay doesn't have stuff vaulted. He's trying to like I don't know, like he needs blips every now and then because this is a small sample size. 9 months of work. Like Vlad's been on for 9 years
right,
plus. Like
right.
it's.
I
Do
mean,
you think Shay Shay like?
even so, there's a. I
Go
feel
ahead.
like with Shay Shay, there's a crossover point. Like there's a Vlad has his segment of people, which is like original hip hoppers. Like that's Vlad's segment.
Right.
That segment is a lot smaller than the Uncast. And that's the thing. He has the podcast, which is tapping into a certain vein. Then he has the late night with Ocho, which is tapping into a certain vein. He's still on ESPN in the mornings. You know what I mean? So he has a wide variety of media right now that are all working together to kind of boost up his relevance right now.
But this is he's because Shay Shay's been around for more than like it's been around for like
For
2 years, maybe 3 years,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
he started just doing the sports people,
Right.
and once he tapped into not just but like the majority, and then once he tapped into the entertainment world, now he started to do that. His numbers definitely blown up, and now is he basically going to be that type of entertainment news viral type of thing now going forward? Is that is that his thing now? Like for that sports, for that whatever, I'm doing
I
this
think he
lane now.
turns. I think he turns. Remember when like Steve Harvey had a little run where he was like hosting everything and
Yeah.
he was kind of like the main narrator of a lot of big events that it seemed like it was weird that he would be like the host of. Like I think that's the kind of run you'll see Shake on now. You'll see him start getting a lot of the hosting gigs, a lot of the paid funny guy, keep the crowd going gigs. I think you'll start seeing that. I mean, I hope he doesn't. I hope he just stays in the same lane. I think it's dope whenever they take Ocho take the show on the road and they do the live show. You know what I mean? I've seen them do that a couple times. So like I think there's ways and avenues to be able to keep it in house. And I would like to see him more go maybe like a Kevin Hart type route, where he's trying to build his own network around all of these little different ventures and start to build that way. I would love to see that, honestly.
I mean, we'll see it, like because the difference between Shannon Sharpe and all those other people, Steve Harvey, Kevin Hart, even Vlad. Shannon Sharpe made his career in sports entertainment as a player.
Yep.
So it's not like he might have his Club Shay Shay that's blowing up, but it's not like he has connections to this like he's not in that circle like that. He's trying he's breaking into it, but
Right.
I don't think he's like at the top of the mind of like, yeah, let him host the Emmys. Like I don't think he's that type dude like that.
I mean, I think they look at numbers, and that's all I'm saying. He definitely jumped up the most attention and the quickest now, which is another thing. So I followed, on Twitter. I think they're a little bit more relevant than a lot of other social media platforms. So I followed him on Twitter and kind of the stuff he does on Twitter, and it's pretty consistent. So I feel like that specific event was like a play for Instagram, like because it happened on IG Live. So I feel like that was him catering to that social media platform to get a bigger reach because he has YouTube. He has YouTube, and I feel like he has a good lock on what they do on Twitter consistently. But I really don't see him pop up on the other social media platforms as much. So I think that was like almost like I don't know, I'd say a paid IG Live sponsorship, but draw attention and awareness to that platform. I think that could have been a play on that. But yeah, man, Shay's wild.
Because if you, I remember the Cat
Yep.
Williams, and the way that interview went, it wasn't really even an interview.
Right.
It was him sort of like he asked like a couple questions, but Cat sort of just controlled
Right.
it. Like Cat sort of just went off and just let him do his thing, and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
And he even said it afterwards, like in the post whatever analysis. Like he was like, I didn't even ask these questions. Like I just let Cat go where he went, and
Right.
that's what I'm saying. Like to pivot, he's not really like a Steve Harvey, Kevin Hart. He's not really controlling. Like he's not really a host for real. He just has a
Right.
platform and people go on and they've been like doing whatever they want. That's why like him pivoting into those other things, we'll see. He has the numbers, but he still has to have that sort of like, I don't know, personality. I don't know if that's the right word, but like I don't see him as a host. Is what I'm trying to say. Of like
And that's
stuff.
also why I say I'd rather see him kind of do his own thing. It's just
Yeah,
because
yeah.
then he can kind of keep it more true to himself than having to get outside and do that. Because I kind of thought the same about Steve Harvey when he was doing that stuff. I was kind of like, I don't know if he's really the best person to be doing this. Like there seems like there could be other people that could be doing it, but I just think he got the look because he could keep it buttoned up and professional enough, and was entertaining enough at the same time to make it work. And then they'll teach you the rest. We'll teach you the rest, the logistics behind hosting and da 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 da. I think they look for that it factor more than anything, and then they can mold that it factor into whatever they needed
But
to go into.
if you notice, when it comes to those hosting type things, like the comedians are usually very good at that.
Right.
They're really, they step into that role easily because they always write jokes for you anyways, so they probably
Right.
write their own jokes anyways,
Right.
and then they're used to being in front of people and entertaining people. Where Shannon Sharpe, like I say, he's an ex-athlete. He's not really used to
For
that, even
sure.
though he's on, he was on ESPN and all that, but
Not only that, but
it's
I'm
a
just saying
different.
that at this point now, I mean, he's pretty much in front of media 8 hours a day. Like I don't know if you watched the one with Ocho at night, but the one with Ocho at night, they're just riffing. They're just going back and forth, and I think
Yeah,
those
yeah,
are the
yeah.
things that are kind of like building his chops, is because they're both trying to be funny, they're trying to be entertaining. You know what I mean? So it's like it's not, it's they can bring the sports in and talk about the sports, but at the same time they have to get little jokes off in order to keep it entertaining and funny when it's just two people they're riffing back and forth. So I think they're both kind of building those chops there. And I think too that that kind of gets into the next thing, is just media in general is changing. I don't think, yeah, that for a while that old form of host on the stage, that was a thing, but now I guarantee you, it's, all of these award ceremonies and all of that stuff's probably going to start looking a little different, a little bit more close to uh, podcast long format style. You see couches on the stage now a lot. Like back in the day, you didn't see a lot of couches on stages, but a lot of these road shows,
Mm.
they're sitting down, they're having those long type conversation type deals on the stage. So I think you could see that. I think you could see the whole format of entertainment start to shift a little bit more.
So you're saying that NOC was too far ahead of the curve when we used to
Too
have the
far
couch
ahead,
on the
brother.
stage, and
Too far ahead. Too far
we've
ahead,
been
brother.
had the
Whole
couch on the
time.
stage.
Yeah, whole time.
Had
That was
we've
you.
been
That
had
was
that
you.
vision, like
That was you. Yeah, you had the couch on the stage. And I mean, honestly, if you look back on it now, I mean, nobody would have done it. But like, yeah, to have some breaks with more narrative type discussions, that would have definitely been a thing. Um, and I also think that, anytime that you're in a situation where, I mean, the crowd has to be entertained, and we have four members that did kind of uniquely bring different things to the table. And I think if we could have took Rams, and just kind of let him get on there and just riff and just kind of do his thing in between while we're sitting on the couch, or had a conversation with Rams. He was a comedian, that was like his strength. That was one of his things that he loved to do naturally. So it's like if we could have had a little 5-10 minute break and just kind of let him get some jokes off, interact with the crowd, um, and just and try to incorporate that, take a little break for so to have a little soliloquy and give a background or backstory on some things, that would have been dope. Like there's a bunch of ways that I feel like we could have better incorporated, you know, what we had going on. Obviously, those type things weren't being done in the moment. Um, it's one of those things where, you know, hindsight's 2020. But
right, right.
knowing what we know now, is we could have definitely done some things a little bit different. That would
Oh
have been
yeah,
dope.
a lot of things. Like I was talking to someone about this exact topic the other day. Like we were in that space, that time when the transition from like how to get put on was moving from the traditional model, right? Like get on the radio, hopefully a label hears you, get signed or something, to what it is today, right? Like be on Facebook, be on a social media platform, and do your own sort of like do your own thing, basically the independence, right? Because I was just looking at this video the other day, like we were on the radio station, we did a song live on the radio, and people called in and said, "Oh, we like your song, we don't like your song," That's not necessary today.
Right.
But we were just at that precipice of when that was changed. We like, because we were in it, we couldn't take a step back and be like, oh yeah, this is moving to this, and we should do this and do this differently. Like it was impossible for us to. Had we started like 5 years later, maybe. but like we were right at that time. Like when did we start? Like 07, 08? YouTube
Yeah,
came out.
07, 08.
YouTube was a thing in 07 for the first time. You know, people weren't even using YouTube like that. But we had videos up on YouTube like early. You know,
Yeah.
too early, so to speak.
I mean, yeah, because we didn't know what to do with them.
Mm-mm.
I mean, we knew to put it up there, you know, but even promoting the YouTube link back then seemed kind of far fetched or weird. Like,
When I saw the old interview on the radio, I forgot his name. The host, he was like, "You guys already put the pictures up on Facebook and tagged me." Like, you know, like the way he was saying it was like so surprising to be able to do that so fast. But it's like we were kind of so far ahead of the time that it was like we were too far ahead. Like it wasn't even, there was no traction there, but we should have just
yeah,
kept going. I guess you know, like you said, hindsight 2020.
yeah. I mean, I don't ever really remember getting any feedback on the couch on the stage from anybody.
I do. They didn't like it. They didn't like that I was just sitting there, kind of like, you know, like, are you involved? Are you not involved? I think
I mean, I don't remember that. I don't personally remember. I remember Skinny Buddha not liking it, but
no. I remember people
I don't
telling me they didn't like it because it was my idea first of all, and it was me mostly sitting on the couch. You know, every now and then you guys would come and sit down, but most of the time it was me until I had to do my part, chilling. You know.
Yeah, but then that's when they know. And I feel like if you knew, you knew, because everybody like that knew they were waiting on your parts. So like they knew it was
But
coming. You know.
what you said about incorporating it like in that fashion with Rams and doing stuff
Yeah,
in between the music to
yeah,
keep it cohesive, you know? We even
yeah,
had the Magic Man. I loved it. People didn't like the
yeah.
Magic Man. They thought it was distracting,
Right,
but because I feel like he
right.
needed his own little segment in
His
between
own,
the
yeah,
things, you know?
same thing, right? Same type thing. I think that was harder too because it's not like we were headlining. I mean, we headlined a couple of those shows, but most of those shows, we're trying to fit into a certain allotted time in the slot. And I think too that goes back to kind of that old mentality of like we gotta if we got this much time, we gotta put as much music in this much time as possible.
Yeah, yeah.
Versus maybe you go out there do 4 songs and then do a little something different in between that nobody's doing. I think that would have been kind of low key dope.
That would have been super dope. It was just who was doing, we didn't have them. That would have been our, like, we would have,
There was no
yeah,
blueprint.
we
Yeah,
would have been the Chiefs on that. And it was like, we were just like, we're
yeah,
doing this other thing, trying to follow this old thing. We don't know that it's changing right as we're doing it.
right.
And I was gonna say, we had different camera people. We had Pete, RIP to Pete. We
Yeah,
had, so we could have had all this, you know what they call B-roll stuff that we talk about nowadays that you need to have. We could have had all that.
hmm
We could have had all that.
hmm
I don't know.
yeah. I mean, it's like you said, we would have been a blueprint. I definitely felt like I remember whenever after going on tour with Sos and taking the live band out, I felt like after that I saw a small segment of people start to do the live band thing for a while,
Hmm.
um, which was kind of dope because I felt like we were on that cutting edge of that a little bit. I just feel like people quickly realized uh, how monetarily that's tough to sustain.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Having four or five extra people on the tour bus, restaurants, everything. That's gonna eat up a budget pretty quickly. So, but I do remember seeing a couple people, kind of associated do a similar type thing, and I thought that was pretty
I
dope.
just saw a
Um,
documentary called, I don't know if you ever heard of this one, 20 Steps from Stardom. You heard about that one? Oh,
mm,
you gotta check that out. It's basically about um, the life of the background singers from like the
mm,
70s, the 80s, the 90s, and even today, and like that transition of like the importance of the background singers. And when
yeah,
I was looking at that documentary, it was basically like a very small group of very good singers that were like, how do I say, like it's a very small fraternity or sorority. Like it's like a lot of famous songs that we hear were this small group of singers that were awesome, but for whatever, for
right,
we know for whatever reason their solo careers didn't grow because they didn't have
Yeah.
certain intangibles that you need to be like a lead
Yeah.
person.
Happens, man. Happens.
And then the transition of, hey, do you need all these people, like you're saying about the band shit? Do you need the background
Yeah.
vocals?
Of
Can we
course.
get rid of that because we just have this
Of
person
course.
and we can substitute out? And it's like the music was so much better with that though, but financially, because it doesn't make sense and we can still make money without it, the music deprecates and we don't even notice.
Yep.
And we don't even
100%.
notice that. Yeah, check that documentary out. It's pretty dope. Like, it showed them
What was the name again?
20 steps from stardom.
20 Steps from Stardom. Bet.
They even talked about
I would.
how like a bunch of British bands, can't remember all their names, but like famous British bands used to have these background vote. They wanted these background singers, these black women singers, to add that flavor to their rock music. And they would always contract them to go and sing with them, and it was crazy. Like, I didn't even think about that, like how important it was for them to have, like they actually had the bands talk about like how important it was to have these background vocals in their music
Oh, yeah.
to like
Yeah.
bring that shit to life. Like, that was interesting, super interesting documentary. Yeah.
That's dope. That's dope. All right. Well, I got a couple more questions. We'll hit real quick.
So,
Uh, give me a sec. We're gonna take a little pause and we'll get back to it.
all right, no Diddy.
50-50, this is simping. And I'm just that cat that taught to be a fisherman. I had a lot of lessons I've been mentioning, even traditions not out of the question. And an affiliation, not representative, I could defend it, but nothing definitive sentiment. Intimate, friendly.
All right, we back. We back. So, next topic that I wanted to hit real quick was the Super Bowl. We had Kendrick Lamar announced as the Super Bowl halftime performer, and obviously there was controversy over Lil Wayne getting a little snub. I want to see how you feel about it. If you think it's fair, if you think Wayne should have been on that stage.
So I think it's fair. I think Kendrick is lit. The Super Bowl people, I don't even think the fans like that care about like the show like that. They care about the game. But I understand having the show. They've been had the show. Personally, I think Kendrick's gonna bring out Lil Wayne anyways.
Right.
I think he's gonna show up regardless.
Right.
I know he might not be on the thing, whatever.
Right.
But I think he's gonna bring out. I think he's gonna bring out a few people. So I don't know what this whole, Jay-Z because of Drake or whatever. I don't even know the whole backstory for real. Do you know
Nah,
a little
nah,
bit
nah,
about
nah,
it? Because I don't.
nah, I don't know. I don't know any of that.
I don't know. I don't know the backstory. I understand like the city where it's held to have the people from that city perform. But I mean, from a financial standpoint, I mean, Lil Wayne's pretty popular. If it wasn't attached to sports, I'd say yes. But because it's attached to, you know, it's not like the Saints are. Well, the Saints might play. It's not like the Saints are going to be in the Super Bowl for sure, right?
Right.
So it's gonna be two teams from wherever. Fans are coming from wherever. I don't think they're that.
I mean,
from a fan perspective.
if the Saints are in the Super Bowl, Wayne's gonna get the pregame and the postgame. He gonna get everything else.
That'll be different. If the Saints are in it,
Yeah.
bring all those people.
Yeah.
Other than that, let Kendrick Lamar. He's on top of the thing right now. He'll probably bring him out anyways. I don't see what the big deal is.
Okay. I mean, that's fair. I respect that. I mean, Lil Wayne, that's my favorite rapper. So the one thing that I will say is I feel like it's a more of a testament to you never heard anything great about Lil Wayne's live performance. We know what he can do on the studio, we know what he can do on the track, but when it came to the live shows, it wasn't a part of his career that everybody was like, oh man, you gotta go see Lil Wayne live. You never heard anybody say that. So to me, that's just a long period of time of not being that lit of a live performer coming back and kind of biting them a little bit. So I think a lot of what we hear as far as backlash, I think a lot of that is honestly, I feel like we kind of gotten a little spoiled, man. Um, and if I say we because I feel like over these last 5 or 6, maybe not 5 or 6, 3 or 4 Super Bowls, I feel like our age group is starting to get like our performers at the Super Bowl now. Like the people that are doing all of the hits from when we were growing up are the performers. So these performances are becoming a little bit more nostalgic for us. Um, and I feel like Kendrick doesn't really hit the whole segment of that demographic. He hits a specific segment of that demographic, but he doesn't fit that whole demographic. Like the group of people I watch with Super Bowl with, like they like Kendrick, they'll know some songs, but they're not gonna be like, "Oh, Kendrick's performing." Versus when Usher was performing, they love, we know all Usher songs. We grew up with Usher. Weekend was, but same with 50. Well, who was it? 50 Cent, the one before that. Same,
50.
yeah, same thing. It's like we grew up with 50. That we know all of his songs. It's like our demographic. So I think Kendrick honestly is maybe on a little bit of a younger, even a little too young for our age group. And I don't know if that's part of the backlash. Whereas Lil Wayne fits right into that demographic that we're talking about, where it's like we grew up with Wayne, we know his hits. So I feel like maybe our generations got a little bit spoiled with these last few performances, and now we're getting a little bit something that's a little bit more niche, and that's a little bit of the backlash. So, but
Well, it's niche. It's niche because it's rap music, right?
I mean,
And because
that's
like you're saying, he's younger. Because
yeah,
I just looked up the past
right,
performers: Usher,
right,
Rihanna,
right,
then the Dr. Dre
right.
one with Snoop. That was like a little bit of an anomaly. But before that, The Weeknd.
Weekend, yeah,
Before that, Shakira and J Lo.
right,
Before that, Maroon
right,
5, Justin
right,
Timberlake, Lady
right,
Gaga,
right.
Coldplay. Notice no rap other than that one year with
I mean,
Snoop
it's
and 50.
never was
Katy
notoriously rap. It
Perry
was never rap until these last few ones.
and Bruno Mars would be the
Hmm.
youngest, but because he's global music, obviously it makes
Right.
sense. And Beyonce before that,
Hmm.
Madonna before that. Then we go into the classic
Right.
acts, Black Eyed
Right.
Peas, The Who,
Right. A
like
little bit older.
so. So what you're saying is true, but like you're saying or like I'm saying, Kendrick is just on top, and it speaks to where hip hop is. Maybe
I mean, to
is
me,
hip hop.
I don't say that because I feel like these people are looking at not where I feel like they're looking at where the money's at, and I feel like that's what I'm trying to figure out. Is where is the money pointing? These people are usually notorious for being targeting the people that are spending the money, and I don't. This one is an interesting case. I think Lil Wayne points more towards the people that are spending money now than necessarily the Kendricks.
Are we undervaluing Kendrick's potential with that spending money?
Maybe I would say I do feel like I've seen Kendrick do some things that are a little bit more tasteful, refined, very creative and artistic,
Absolutely.
and I think maybe that um, I randomly wanted to look up a couple days ago how many, and I should just do it now. How many luxury brands were formed, in 2000 versus luxury brands formed after 2020? Because I do feel like there's a segment of luxury right now that if you can target that niche market and still make more overhead wise because they're buying a larger price product, if that makes sense. Um, and they tend right now, it seems like in the economy they are the group that still has the disposable income. Is that a little bit higher income level earner? So I, it up until this year, you never really heard the gangster rappers claiming Kendrick and bumping Kendrick like that. He was more
Is it
he was more of a backpack type crowd.
Is it also a West Coast bias?
In what regard?
So when we talk about spending and all that, like literally, Kendrick has a whole coast.
Yeah.
Because I mean, who out the West
Right.
other than for the new acts? On the East Coast we have plenty of people we could point to. We live on the East Coast, so we kind of see it and feel it a little bit more. We don't really know what the West Coast is buying like that. We don't really know what
Yeah.
but they're definitely on Kendrick's side, and that's a whole
I agree.
coast. We're talking
I
about.
agree, and
So
I
it's
think
like
you did feel that during the whole beef. You did see Kendrick start to get a lot of endorsements. I feel like only thing that was, I guess we got the end of the basketball NBA playoffs, and we got WNBA. But I feel like that that definitely became the mantra in that sport specifically. And I know for sure. I mean, for years, I feel like the NBA has been trying to find a way to better monetize the West Coast. I feel like all of the East Coast teams get a lot of viewership just because of time zone wise, and then the West Coast games never got enough viewership. And I feel like that's what you see, that push towards all the talent in the West that's been over the last 10 years. I feel like all of that is kind of a play at monetizing more of the money on that West Coast, because over in the East Coast, there's so many different teams in a smaller amount of area, where the West Coast is wider with less teams and less superstars. Well, it was for a while until here more recently. But
But isn't the viewership thing, like, I don't say null and void, but it's like less important because it used to be you had to watch it on certain like channels, NBC, ABC, Fox. You can view games in so many different ways today. Like that viewership thing,
I mean,
the timing
I
of
don't
it.
think so. I think they still base their uh, whenever they negotiate their agreements. I think it's still based off of most of that TV money coming in, and that TV money is always going to be based off of viewership. I think they've always probably packaged it all as one. They're not leaving the West Coast, doing the West Coast and the East Coast viewership differently. They're packaging it once. Like, hey, you'll get the East Coast numbers. You're gonna have to take these West Coast too that aren't doing as well. But you know,
I just like, it's hard for me to say like aren't doing as well because obviously they're watching. There's a drop because East Coast people are going to sleep, but like you can't discount that they are watching their games and they have a huge fan base and et cetera, et cetera. That's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like the East Coast bias is just that if it's not on this coast, then it's like lesser. Is what I'm trying to say because we don't live there. But I mean, LA. I mean, the West Coast has its own vibe. It has its own thing.
for
Like
sure.
they don't succumb to like that. I personally feel like they don't succumb to that type thinking. Like, oh, we always have less numbers because people on the East go to sleep. I don't think they feel like that at all on not living there, not knowing. But I feel like they have their own. They have a certain power too. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, for sure. I think like you was like this whole thing started though. I think their power is more in the conglomerate one. You know, I feel like them speak like when you think West Coast, like honestly, still to this day, I mean, you kind of think Lakers when you're talking about basketball.
You don't think 49ers? Oh,
Yeah,
basketball.
just
Okay.
specifically based basketball. And yeah, and the NFL, no. I mean the 49ers, yeah, but I mean
The
that's
Oakland Raider, the Raiders.
definitely not the Raiders.
That Raider hat is pretty popular. It's like a Yankee hat out there.
Definitely not the Raiders. But I mean I
That
do think their power is definitely more in a one versus, you know, I don't know. And a lot of things that I'm trying to think of right now, like I think of like how much news coverage certain topics get, like how often when I said when you see in Sports Center, or how what's getting the headlines every day, what's the things that are coming on first versus the things that they're just kind of going brushing over real fast in between segments and stuff like that. And that's where I say that bias came from for me. It's just I've always felt like there's definitely been a bias towards East Coast. Like I said, NBA specifically, I feel like they've done a great job of shifting a lot of talent to the West Coast in order to pull up that viewership. But I mean, I feel like I see the same thing in college. Like I feel like
that what you just said. That's not even a bias. That's literally a region because ESPN is in Bristol, Connecticut. of course the East Coast is gonna have like it's like talking about like Hollywood, right? Like we don't know Hollywood like the West Coast knows Hollywood because Hollywood is in California. They're gonna have way different understanding of what Hollywood is and what Hollywood
For
stands
sure.
for and the happenings in Hollywood than we are because we're a whole coast away.
For sure.
So of course having ESPN headquarters in Connecticut is gonna it's not a bias. It's literally like, hey, we're here.
Yeah, but
Like
I mean
of course we're gonna cover
they've
them.
been in LA for a minute. They've had a big office in LA for 20 years. You know,
Do you do you think Lil Wayne is more popular in California than Kendrick right now?
no, no way,
Okay. Okay.
no way. And it's the same thing when it's like when you're talking about a city like New Orleans, which isn't really, I mean, the biggest city. You know, like of course the NFL is going to take a whole coast of people over Lil Wayne. I would say all of that relevance, ticket sales, all of that right now. That's using Kendrick's favor. It's not even close.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
said, I just think it was just interesting as far as I know when I do watch the Super Bowl, I watch it with a wide demographic of people, and I know that crowd would enjoy just because of our age group would enjoy Lil Wayne way more than they would enjoy Kendrick. And
Okay.
I think
Okay.
Kendrick's Super Bowl will be very artistic and it'll be creative and it'll be dope. You know what I mean? And it'll probably have a message to it. But I mean, entertainment value. That's a I'll enjoy it. you know, but I know that there was the 30-year-old white mom that was thoroughly enjoying Usher last year. That probably just won't be enjoying Kendrick as much.
Is it because of exposure?
Yeah,
Is it because
100%.
once they see it, they're like, oh, this is
Well, it's
better than
not.
I thought it
I
was
mean,
gonna
you just
be.
gotta remember back then we had superstars. Like all of those people, list of people that you named before, they were superstars. Versus Kendrick came in that
Right.
era that like the superstar really didn't exist anymore. Like it's always been the big three. Like it's never just been one of those dudes just like overtook the industry and just was that guy. You know.
But again, we're talking about strictly rap music. I think there's still superstars outside of rap music.
Yeah, but I mean, none of them are rappers.
And that's what I'm
Right.
saying. That's what I'm
Right.
saying.
Right.
Like, could they have picked a superstar outside of rap instead of Kendrick Lamar?
And that's what I would say. I would say Little Wayne, Jay Z is still a superstar, like outside of rap. Like
Hmm.
Eminem is a superstar outside of rap, right? Like, and then
I'm saying like outside of rap music, like an R&B person, a rock, like a country, like
yeah,
could they have
yeah,
got Taylor Swift
for
to do
sure,
it?
for sure. That's what I'm saying. Well, maybe. I mean, I don't think Taylor would do it, but I think they could have got somebody on a big level.
Really? Even with Travis Kelsey being her, like that's a
It's not,
easy connection right
no,
there.
because you don't get paid. You don't get paid for support. You're paying to put it on. And she that's the thing. She doesn't have. She just show up at the game and she can get just as much attention as putting her on that Super Bowl. But I think that little Wayne was that in that last little tier of rappers that were superstars. Like Little Wayne had a small period time where like he was trying to take on Jay Z as like the guy, like the best rapper alive type thing, and like there was still a concentrated attention on people at that time. Versus by the time Kendrick was there, you already had streaming, you already had this dissemination of the superstar like as we knew it back then. And that's all I'm saying. From a demographic, I think Little Wayne would have reached more people and entertained more people than Kendrick Lamar will.
Who do you think's a bigger artist, Lil Wayne or 50 Cent?
Biggest artist what now? Or
Yeah, like and
50,
what we're talking
50 Cent
about.
is more relevant than Lil Wayne right now, for sure. But that's not
Okay,
because of music. That's because of power, and he does a good job staying in social media and stuff like that.
okay, okay. That's just a random question I was thinking
Yeah,
about.
I know. I think it all goes in. Like if they're looking at the algorithm, Lil Wayne is not triggering. He's not triggering the algorithm. You know what I mean? Versus
Or to your point about the last superstar, because I feel like 50 Cent came after Lil Wayne. You don't think 50 Cent was a superstar?
I think Eminem was a superstar, and I think that whatever that difference is between 50 Cent and Eminem, the as far as people that they can reach, I think that's the difference that you have in that superstar thing. 50 had definitely had that he was in that last run and era. By the time he started the dissing thing, like the beef happened, like I think it was over. And I think he always had G Unit. Like he, you know what I'm saying? Like there was this whole other that was a whole nother driving force. Was kind of like bringing back the groups, you know, at Dipset and G Unit, like. So yeah, I think
But
he was never
his biggest album, Get Rich or Die Trying.
his first album. Everybody knows that 50 Cent did a great job of leveraging Vitamin Water deal. Like he did a great job as a businessman. You know what I mean? Like I don't think he had to be a superstar because he got the money. You know, I think that's that was more important to him. And he also, you know, got out of the rap. He started acting very quickly. Like he started kind of venturing away quicker. And I think that's another thing with Lil Wayne is, you know, the fact that he's still doing it and he's not as relevant right now is it hurts him. It definitely hurts him, I think, in that equation.
Yeah, I mean, 50 Cent is not a legacy music act.
No.
He had one super big album and then one big album. And then, like you said, like his shit was pivot and do other things. Even though he still tours today, still touring around the globe, doing old music, which is fine. But, yeah, from a music perspective, no comparison to Lil Wayne in terms of longevity. But in terms of, like, the heights they reached, I don't know, like, Lil Wayne's biggest album compared to Get Rich or Die Trying, Carter 2 or something like that, which one would be comparable to Get Rich or Die Trying?
I mean, I don't think you could. I think Get Rich or Die Trying is above probably any solo.
Any one.
Yeah, but I mean, when you look at Wayne's body of work, like if you don't, you're not looking at the mixtapes, then like you're missing, you know, half of the picture at least. And then if you go back, you know, before I would maybe put up any one of Lil Wayne's solo albums, I would put up maybe one of the Hot Boy albums or something like that. You know what I mean? Like that had classics on it. But
so then that becomes a little bit regional because not everyone was privy to that stuff.
Of course, and I think that was part of the thing. Like Wayne ended up transcending all of that. He ended up transcending that and like forcing his way into the superstardom that he did have. Versus 50, I think 50 was at a good 50. He's just smart, man. 50 was smart. He just, I feel like he saw a gap.
He's in that.
I feel like he saw a gap in the market.
He's in that bias group.
Huh?
Not a gap. He saw like a gap. Well, what do you mean by that?
I think he was kind of like he saw a gap where it's like, all right, all of these dudes is talking about it, but they're not really about it, you know. And he's just like, I'm gonna come in, and I'm a strong arm, and like I'm a really like do this thing my way, like, you know. And I think that he had a allure coming into himself as a rapper. You know, he had a storyline, a villain. He had what do they call it? A villain story, villain origin story. You know, before we first heard of him, we're like, who is this guy? And the first thing you hear about him, he got shot 9 times. He went to the record label threatening people. That, you know what I mean? So versus Lil.
I mean, he definitely leaned into it. It wasn't like he was the only one that had that type of storyline.
Yeah.
He was the one that popped off with it.
Right.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Popped off with it.
At the end of the day, he just had good songs. I mean, he just had really good songs.
I mean, he definitely has some dope songs. But I think too, think about it. Like 50 was the first rapper who was like when we first saw him and he was so ripped and big. Like it's kind of like, all right, like that gives a validity to it. Like a lot of rappers pop, you know what I'm saying? But like a pop, you know, talk about they do this, they do that, but none of them don't really look like they do that, you know what I mean? It's like very few that
Even today,
even today, yeah, even today. And not saying that you got to look a certain way
or especially today,
right, especially today,
exactly today.
right. Not saying you got to look a certain way to do that, do this or that, but it's like it kind of the same thing. It's like he leaned into that, like that mentality of like being that dude that would come, you know, slap you in the mouth. Like he looked like a dude that would come slap you in the mouth,
Yeah.
like, you know. And I just feel like he did a good job with marketing himself and building his brand and his story. I think that's what he did well. I don't think he was ever like a good, like he's not a superstar to me. Like he doesn't have that superstar S factor that I'm talking. You know what I mean? That it factor. Like he was just smart and he knew
But
how to maneuver.
and to your point, having that Slim Shady machine behind him with Dre, like he needed all that for sure.
Of course.
I mean, a lot of it. I don't want to say a lot of people that did all that, but like it was just the right mixture. Like he really did have good songs, and he really was writing. You know, he had Slim Shady, whatever Eminem saw in him that he's like, yep, this could work, and then Dre, all that together. Because you can get Eminem and Dre to push some other people, and it's not gonna do the same thing
Yeah.
because you gotta have the whole mix at the right time, and that's what happened with 50. Like he just had the whole mix.
For sure. For sure.
Lil Wayne is just a really good
Yeah.
artist.
That's what I'm saying.
I
Lil
don't know
Wayne,
how to explain it. Like he's just a really
yeah, you could have dropped him off anywhere and he would have turned into Lil Wayne, I feel like.
basically.
Which to me that's more
Basically.
of a not like same thing. Like Lil Wayne wasn't a traditional superstar in the way that you would look at as a superstar, but he just left an imprint on the game. You know what I mean? A different type of imprint. Um, but yeah, I guess last thing to get into before we get out of here. Uh, no Diddy, man. No Diddy.
Oh Lord.
Did he go into jail for life? What's he gonna get out? What did he doing, man?
Do you believe in karma?
Do I believe in karma? I don't know. I don't know if I would call it karma. Not Diddy specifically,
Did
but what I believe in, I don't know if I would call it karma. Maybe something in that sense,
did
in that vein.
Diddy's been involved in a lot of stuff throughout the years, you know? Just a lot of stuff. Been bulletproof for a long time, you know?
Hmm.
Is what's happening to Diddy indirectly just a reflection of him teetering that line for all these decades since Pac, since Biggie, like regardless of what the allegations are, I feel like he's just been living in this certain lane that is like, hey man, you either gotta, I don't know, like it's like, you know how they say the drug dealers, like you only have two options, jail or death, right? Diddy is not a drug dealer, but that lane he's in, he kind of has the same two options in my mind. Like, yo, Diddy, the way you live life, you only two things can happen to you, bro. One way or another is gonna catch up to you. Jail for life, I don't know about that, but jail time, prison time.
Yeah, yeah, probably going in.
I'll be going in.
I ain't
Is he gonna
gonna
do?
lie. I ain't gonna lie. I don't want to talk about Diddy. I brought this question up for a specific reason. I brought this question up for a specific reason, and I know nobody else is gonna ask this question, so I'm gonna ask this question to you because I feel like it's important.
All right.
King Los,
I'm gonna listen to his music.
King
Oh,
Los,
Ken Los.
what's up with your
Come
boy?
on,
I ain't
come
heard nothing
on,
about your
Ken
boy.
Los.
I heard nothing, no peeps. Nobody ain't brought him up. What? He was all there. He was there. He was there.
Ken Los just had a 3-hour interview on some podcast, and they asked him all about it.
What?
I'll send you the link. You check it
I'll
out.
send you the link. All the King Los fans out here right now is real quiet. That's all I'm saying. Ain't nobody said anything.
Listen,
I heard a little
I'm
snippet.
still an R. Kelly fan.
He dropped a little snippet. I heard that. He didn't really address too much. I'm like, I was thinking he gonna address something. Nah. It was a dope little verse.
What's there to address? There's nothing to address.
The day after the feds raided, he in the video with man at the mansion. So at that point, I feel like at that point, you know everything. You got to know everything.
Why? Why does he have to know everything?
What do you mean? Why? The man, just the house just got raided by the feds.
Mm-hmm.
So either one or two things happen. Diddy sitting there telling Los, "Nah, man, ain't none of this true," and Los stupid enough to believe it, or Los already know what time it is.
I'm talking to KD that your mantra is many things could be true at the same. So it's not one or the other. It's everything. Los isn't stupid. I don't think Los is stupid.
No, he's not stupid. Of course,
I do think Diddy was saying I didn't do nothing, but at the same time, Los is like, I mean, you gave me money back in the day when I was fucked up too. I mean, I'm just not gonna turn my back, but I don't believe you. But I'm here.
Turn my back is crazy. Turn my back is crazy. As a non-New Yorker, I just want to say, turn my back is crazy. That's wild.
I think that's a reach, but
pause. That's wild.
You're reaching right now.
That's wild.
I think you're reaching right now.
Yeah, man, I don't care about this Diddy thing. I just wanted to mess with you about King Los, because I ain't heard nobody say King Los in this whole thing. But hey, I don't ever like to see a black man get locked up. If he did all of that stuff, then he get what he deserved. And I don't know, man. I tell you one thing. I heard a name that I'm not about to say on the podcast, but I heard a name when the first raid happened that I never heard that name on TV, and that's some heavy hitters. So I ain't, you know what I mean? I thought that was crazy. When I heard that, I was like, oh wow.
What was it? A religious leader?
Nah, I mean he might as well be, but nah. Start with an L, and the next thing start with a G. So if you know LG, you know what I'm talking about. But hey, man, I heard his name on the news, and I was like, all right, this for real, because they're not bringing his name out for no reason, for nothing.
I mean, yeah, like I don't know how much of the raid you looked into, what they found, tapes. It's crazy.
Like Epstein. It seemed just kind of like a similar Epstein thing. It's like it seemed like.
Well, no, let's not go there because Epstein was definitely underage.
Yeah. No. I'm not saying in that case. I'm saying in the matter of fact that like it seemed like he might have been taping in order to hold things over other people's heads, and it seems like I don't know. I think in both of those cases, you know, are you doing this for yourself or is somebody else having you do this? You know, on purpose. So I feel like at some point you might just be a cog in the wheel and of a bigger play, and you know you'll be the scapegoat and you'll be the fall guy. But you know what it was when you took that position. So,
like I said, he's been bordering that line for the past 30 years.
He's been good, and he's been good. You know, they always protect you, and a lot of times they'll protect you for a long time. But at some point, 30, 40 years, that's a nice little long run of protection. So.
That contract is
that contract going. that contract,
and he didn't want to renew. He's like, I got Revolve, I got Ciroc, I'm good. I don't need you anymore. Psych, psych alive.
Yeah.
I need you.
Man. But yeah, man, that's it for the cast. Nothing crazy, just a little bit of a state of the music industry address. You know what it is.
All right.
Songs on a Sunday morning. Appreciate you. What's popular with J.O. the NOC,
the algorithm.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
AIP.
Anything
I do this
possible.
for fun.
Pull up. For sure, man. I'm trying to get Skinny Buddha on here soon, and somebody else reached out for a podcast. I'll tell you about that later. But so I got a couple of interviews hopefully lined up, but with some of the NOC crew. So yeah, man. But I'll holler at you, bro. We're gonna get out of here. Appreciate y'all.
We gotta link up, but I got some things to talk about. I got some new news.
Heard that.
Financial news.
Heard that.
We lit.
Get it in. All right, then, Dada.
Peace.
And the innocent under the radar, avoiding detection. Where the Russians influence elections. Discriminant voter suppression. Aggressive border protection leads to another 9-bone depression, especially individuals affected. Best to leave a sleeping giant. You could be defeated if you feel the need to really be defiant. You should be reading the fine print for the upload on your content and your palm prints. Before you don't think that it's nonsense, is you ready to deal with the consequence? All finessing, not a question. The soul richness and all possession intensifies, never obsolescence. We hardly decimate. They probably restless, spectators to jolly gestures and fine fabrics, so they polyesters. It's hardly justice. It's almost justified to not distress this injustice, but just because it's just under the radar, avoiding detection. Where the Russians influence elections, got me addicted in love with attention. And